This is the Cycling Over 60 podcast, season 2, episode 42, Love to Ride, and I'm your host, Tom Butler. Welcome to my podcast where I give updates on my progress as I use cycling to get and stay fit. And this is also the place where I share conversations I'm having about health and bikes and bike transportation and about anything else bike related I can think of. Before I share anything else, I want to announce that I'm going to do a group challenge in the Cycling Over 60 Strava Club. The challenge is to see how many miles we can ride as a group during the week of National Senior Health and Fitness Day. I'll be doing a random drawing for a $50 REI gift card for one club member who rides during the week of National Senior Health and Fitness Day, and that falls on May 29th this year. I will be putting more information in a club post soon. I had a fun experience on Mother's Day. I am used to cycling on a trail that used to be a railway, but on Mother's Day, we took my wife to Rail Cycle Mount Rainier. At Rail Cycle, you use a special rail cart that is fitted with 4 sets of cranks turned by pedals. You go out for a short 1.5 mile piece of track and then have a bit of time just hanging out as they turn the carts around for the return trip. You coast for most of the trip out, which of course means that you have to do some work on the trip back. However, it was pretty easy going because it was only a slight grade. My only complaint was the seats were not very comfortable. I would rather be sitting on a bike saddle than in those seats. But it was a fun and unique way to see a little bit of countryside. As I have often shared, I am wearing a continuous glucose monitor. The main thing this provides is an option for me to experiment with what causes a spike in my glucose levels. I still see this as a secondary indicator of how my body is functioning, but I do think it is helpful to monitor my blood sugar. Until I can do continuous insulin monitoring, it provides good data. Lately, I've been seeing some high blood glucose at times when I shouldn't have much glucose on board at all. For example, when I haven't eaten for more than 12 hours. So I am very, very curious about what contributes to this elevated glucose. I am okay with this elevated blood glucose if it is a result of burning fat. And that is because I believe my visceral fat stores are the major contributor to my metabolic dysfunction. Now I have a new area of interest. I want to know more about glucagon. Briefly, glucagon is a counterbalancing hormone for insulin. If blood glucose gets too low, glucagon triggers gluconeogenesis. Now, if you want to know more of an explanation, you need to do a Google search on it. When you think about it, I spent years dumping large amounts of sugar into my body. If that activity can alter response to insulin, what we call insulin resistance, seems likely that I could have also altered the response to glucagon. With that in mind, I was able to find an article from 4 years ago that stated that the University of Copenhagen was just introducing the concept of glucagon resistance. Now I believe it would be helpful to not only be monitoring my insulin levels, but also my glucagon levels as well. And I'll be trying to figure out how to do that. Regardless of those levels, however, I believe that continuing to reduce visceral fat ultimately is the course to return to normal insulin and glucagon function. Now, once again, if any of you know an endocrinologist for me to bring on the podcast, I would love to discuss this with someone who really knows this stuff. As I've mentioned before, the scale is the only consistent way that I can monitor my visceral fat. It is a lousy way of doing it, but it is the only thing that I can do consistently. I am planning to do another DEXA scan soon to compare to what I had done last fall. And again, this isn't a perfect assessment, but it is better than the scale. My current weight situation is that I am stuck above 204 pounds. I still believe that getting under 190 pounds puts me at a place where I will significantly reduce visceral fat. For now, I have somewhat plateaued at 204. I know that it can be really frustrating to get stuck like this at a certain weight. However, for me, it's more fascinating than frustrating. Imagine the complexity of a biological system that can keep me above 204 pounds no matter what I am doing. Now, that is pretty cool. In the past, with the old calories in and calories out paradigm, the solution to being stuck would be to keep reducing calories until I broke through this plateau. However, I am moving away from that paradigm. My thinking has been permanently shaped by Richard Johnson's book titled Nature Wants Us to Be Fat. I spent 30 years adding fat every year. If nature wants me to be fat, my body must have loved those years. But now I'm asking it to undo all that fat accumulation. I expect that my body can get stuck along the way at certain weights, so I'm reversing years of fat accumulation. I am more interested in slowly breaking through these barriers than doing it quickly, because I believe quickly losing weight can cause some unsustainable conditions that I would regret later. So I am happy to see 204 day after day, believing it will eventually shift. At the same time, I will be experimenting with small modifications that I can do that might encourage my body to burn fat, resulting in lowering my weight. Most importantly, I will continue to try to repair my metabolism and increase my baseline metabolic rate so that hopefully I'm just slowly over time burning more fat on a 24-hour basis. While I was looking around for National Bike Month events, I came across an organization called Love to Ride. Now that immediately struck me as a group of people I would like to hang out with. If you go to their website, you're greeted by a bunch of very fun and inspiring content. And I was intrigued that Love to Ride is partnering with the League of American Bicyclists on the Bike Month Challenge. When I reached out to ask if someone would come on the podcast, I got a very enthusiastic response. And I'm glad to say that Laura Cisneros joined me for a great discussion. I hate to say it, but my audio was messed up again. If you're curious, when I did the interview, I was recording my voice from the wrong microphone. I don't have anything that alerts me when I make this mistake, so I'll just have to be more careful in the future. Fortunately, Laura sounds great, and that is the most important part anyway. Here we go. When you are a part of an organization called Love to Ride, you're somebody that I know I want to talk to. Thank you, Laura Cisneros, for joining me today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk with you.
Can you start out by talking about your relationship with cycling?
Well, I'm going to date myself. My first bike I got when I was 6, and it was a Stingray Deluxe. It was blue, banana seat and all, and it had little tassels hanging off the handlebars and my little rubberized grips. And my sister got a big orange one, and I got this blue one. She didn't have a Stingray. I can't remember what she had. So it was just part of growing up. I'm a kid of the 70s. And so, you didn't come in the house unless you were bleeding, right? You got on your bike at the start of the day and you were gone, eating somebody else's food in somebody else's kitchen, up until it was time to get your butt in bed. So I kind of grew up on a bike. And then when I came to UT to go to the University of Texas here in Austin, I lived on West Campus, and I had a car, but everything was so bikeable. So I don't even know where I got this bike. Back in the day, I just don't even remember. Probably picked it up at Goodwill or something like that. And I rode it all over the place. We rode it, all the way from West Campus out to the Broken Spoke, where we'd go two-stepping and, then ride it all the way back. And then over time, I've lived in Central Austin almost all my life. And, it just is an easy way to get around. And, I'd take business meetings on my bike, in the late 90s. And it's just been part of my life. It's so, integrated into the way I use the world. So that's kind of my history with bikes.
It sounds like Austin is a pretty bike-friendly city. Would you agree with that?
I'd agree with that in part, and certainly we're getting better. We passed a number of mobility bonds, and we've got recent green lights from the city council to update the urban trails and bike plan. That's going to add, an excess of 800. I think what's the last? So let's see, 805 miles of planned biking infrastructure, and it really does depend on where you are in town. There's a lot, from the more affluent areas. There's a lot more protected infrastructure coming from the more affluent areas coming downtown than there are in the east side of the city. We've got more paint and bollards than we do protected bikeways over here, but it's coming. There's huge investments going into our trail networks. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a great bike trail anywhere around the city, whether it's in the urban areas for athletic riding or if you're doing recreational or mountain bike riding out on Walnut Creek. There's just a lot of riding to be done around here. So it's a beautiful scene. And it is getting safer, which is the great news, right? For accomplished cyclists or people that have been out there for a while, like I have, I don't love riding in traffic, but I will own the road when I need to be safe. But yeah, protected bikeways are definitely coming in. So I applaud the city of Austin folks and Laura Dierenfeld, who's really done the hard work of like driving this change forward for decades. So it's just been a lot of work, but yeah, things are going great. And we've got a thriving bike community here, just a massive bike community here.
Is that there's something culturally about Austin that makes that community thrive?
Yeah, I think there are a couple things. So back in the day, we had these amazing critical mass rides that were hundreds and hundreds. Now they were largely unruly in the 80s. There were lots of punks. I remember going to South by Southwest on bikes. Like back in the day, that was the way you did all the gigs, and you'd be in line next to Steve Earle or who knows who with your bike lock in your hand, or it was just how you got around. But the scene was certainly fostered out of the young people going to college here. The UT is at the center of the city of Austin. And so you had a lot of young people living on the east side or living on the west side who just rode their bikes into campus. So that was part of the milieu. And then musicians didn't have any money. They were all riding bikes. I mean, tattoo artists in general, this is a huge art scene. So there's just a kind of counterculture element to Austin that aligns with kind of the sub-political tendencies, if you will, or it's sub-political, if you will, tendencies to biking. So yeah, that made for a great scene. And today, Social Cycling is an incredible group. They started in around 2010, I think, and they have put together a powerful program. They run about 7 rides a week. They do all kinds of foundational community building work. They've got, recreational rides. They've got mission-driven rides. They've got rides that are for new riders. They've got exclusive femme rides, so women can feel comfortable in riding groups. And then you have, the whole other half of the scene, which is the athletic cycling core. Like, it's crazy scene here in Austin. So there's just a lot going on, and it's super friendly. That's the other part of it that I think is really great, is the bike scene around here is just so friendly, good people.
One of the things about doing this podcast is that I'm just constantly hearing about places where I want to go ride my bike. And, I'm adding Austin to that list now. I think it would be wonderful to
definitely.
experience it. Love to Ride is just an awesome name. I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about the history of where Love to Ride came from.
Yeah, actually, the company was founded out of the Department of Transportation in New Zealand, part of their TDM program, which is Transportation Demand Management. And this was over a decade ago. Our CEO and founder, Thomas Stokel, is from New Zealand and worked on that project. And basically, they were charged with using technology and behavior change methodology to induce active mode shift, principally biking. And so that involved creating challenges, like community challenges, like the one that we do in partnership with the League every year, Bike Month, National Bike Month. And these challenges were all, were designed with gamification that spurred the growth in ridership. And I can talk a little bit more about it. But the company is now we're in 13 countries, hundreds of cities around the world. And we work with government or, large organizations, governments at the local and regional and state levels to put on our programs, which include kind of a virtuous circle, if you will, of services and features. We engage people with our campaigns. Once people are engaged, they register on a website that we geofence for the region we're working in. Once they register, they fill out a brief survey that gives us some intentional information about how they view biking. the concerns they have. They provide us with that ethnicity information and demographics. All of this becomes important later. And then once they start riding, we've now got a profile of who these people are, and we can understand what kind of behavior change messages to use for them to get them to cycle more frequently. If somebody has a health concern that they're trying to address, we might send them information about how 30 minutes of riding can reduce blood glucose levels by 16%. So, I mean, those kinds of things. After, the program was initiated in New Zealand. That program at the time was called Challenge for Change. When Thomas left the Department of Transportation and started the new company was named Love to Ride. We agree it's a great name, it's a great brand. Everybody loves to ride. It's a friendly brand. The design of our band was very conscious to be inclusive and non-alienating. We didn't want it to be it doesn't look like a super macho competitive brand. And because of that, we have people from all walks of life that participate in our programs around the world.
For me, I love to ride. I love to go for a bike ride. Recently, went out and we took over a bridge in Seattle. And that was just such a fun experience to be out there riding with thousands of other people on a bridge where you normally don't get to go as a cyclist. And at the same time, I'm really interested in what you're talking about because there's this kind of scientific way of augmenting that love to ride with some things that kind of can maybe counteract kind of the social impediments to riding. And when I say that, like there's time constraints and there's all these kind of things that are built in to our culture. And you almost need to give yourself permission to love to ride.
That was exactly what I was going to say. And I think that's so well put. One of the ways that our behavior change programs work is inviting people to ride first for just 10 minutes, because 10 minutes is all it takes for your brain to map fun. It doesn't take any longer than that. If you'd ridden in the past, right? Like all of your memories get recycled. You start remembering how it feels to ride a bike, the freedom that you feel when you ride a bike, the joy that it inspires, all this, the sensory input, the wind, all of it, the feel of the handles on your hands. It is just enough to get people to say, hey, you know what? That was pretty good. I can do it again. So we really work on encouraging these baby steps of behavior change just to get their beak wet, as it were, right? Just to try a little bit. And then we're like, the first one's free. Go on another ride. Okay, go on another ride. Oh, actually go to have coffee on your bike. And then, go to work or go to a meeting on your bike. Slowly introducing people to these concepts while reminding them of the benefits that they're looking for. They care about the environment. They care about their air quality. They care about the future of their children. They care about their own health. And meanwhile, what they get is they start feeling like they're a part of this community. And it's exhilarating. You start understanding your city differently, and that whole experience is resonant. It's powerful. And behavior change is the key. We also use gamification during our challenges.
I recently interviewed someone, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, from University of Pennsylvania's Change for Good initiative. And I think that there's so many powerful things that can be put in, and gamification being one of those, that can help people start on that path of doing something new. Now, it is May and celebrating National Bike Month on the Cycling Over 60 podcast. And you have a partnership you mentioned, with the League of American Bicyclists. Can you talk a bit about that relationship and the mission of that collaboration?
Sure. So we have been working with the League of American Bicyclists for a while now, and I want to say at least 2018. Back in 2018, we initially sponsored what was the National Bike Challenge, which was a 5-month biking shenanigans, honestly, from May through September. And gradually, as they went on to focus on Bike Month, our collaboration with them has changed over the years and, really developed. part of the ways in which it's been shaped is because we have developed some very important, what we think is groundbreaking technology when it's put together with the other behavior change programs and the demographic information that we have. And that is the development of our new app. So Love to Ride, purchase of technology nearly 3 years ago. And over these last 3 years, we've really worked very hard to stabilize a automatic mode detection bike app. So this means no start and stop. This is imperative and so important for anyone concerned with bike planning in the cities, because what we know is that even though most people that track their rides use Strava or Map My Ride, majority using Strava, and on the athletic side, ride with GPS. But what we know about both of those is that start button doesn't get started unless you're going on a ride greater than 10 miles. We know that now because we've actually, in our test markets where we've launched Love to Ride after being in market for over a year under Strava, we can see the delta of the trips that we're getting now. We're getting 11 times the biking data on the Love to Ride app, and almost all of that is under 7 miles. So this is an extraordinary moment in biking for us, and we think with the league, because what this biking data will do is, one, we know that we're going to get more of it. And we know that as a non-Strava app, we're going to be more, we already have a broad base of appeal. 55% of new riders on the platform are women. That's significant. And with this app, one of the features that we also developed was a comfort rating feature. And this is designed to the LTS standard. So there's 4 levels of traffic stress. And basically at the terminus of your ride, you get a little innocuous pop-up that says, hey, you want to make make biking better in your community? Just use this little finger paint and paint how you felt on each piece of the network that you rode on down to 10 meters. So planners will be able to use this and get real community feedback in real time, not a survey, not some eco counter that's out there trying to, or some manual survey or community survey telling them what their riding experience is. This is real people, real time reporting on real roads and how they feel about that. The other really exciting thing about this, and this goes back to kind of the survey data that we take at the front end of registration on Love to Ride, is that we collect this demographic information and this ethnicity information. So now planners can prioritize investment based on population. Where do African American women between 35 and 45 feel uncomfortable on our biking network? Where do overnight workers, people that work from midnight to 5 a.m., feel uncomfortable on this network? That kind of diagnostic tool we are incredibly excited about. And so that takes us to Make Every Ride Count. So the Make Every Ride Count initiative is the initiative that we launched with the League for Bike Month this year. And the initiative is all designed to get everyone everywhere to download the Love to Ride app and rate their infrastructure this bike month. We want to get as much infrastructure and as many segments rated as possible across the United States. And then once this is done, we will announce the release of a comfort map, which will be publicly available, where people can go and look at their community and see how they're in the aggregate. They won't get these demographic filters. Those go to our paid clients in the regions, but they'll get to see in aggregate what the experience is like for real people riding on the infrastructure in your community. So that's what Make Every Ride Count is. The mission is to let people's voices be heard about the infrastructure situation in their cities so that planners can improve and respond to the community in kind.
It's fantastic. I mean, and you talk about 11 times more data. Is that?
It's unbelievable. Like when you look in our community, in the test communities where we've been for a year, where the app has been out for a year, it's 11 times. It's 11 times, not 11%. I remember looking at it the first time, I was like, what? And almost all of them, the graph is very clear. Almost all of that, I think it's like 74% of those rides are under 6 miles. that's urban riding that needs to be, analyzed for future bike plans or bike plan updates. And, and certainly from a safety perspective and a Vision Zero perspective, we need to know where these uncomfortable areas are. Future development on this app, just FYI, is you'll actually have a Y on your comfort level. So you can select from a drop down of what made you uncomfortable, and you'll be able to select multiple choices. Or conversely, if it was really comfortable, what made it really comfortable? Oh my God, the tree cover was amazing. Like it was so pretty, or whatever it is. Because those whys will further help planners deduce, like, what's the value of placing some infrastructure here, and what does that infrastructure intervention look like? So just super exciting stuff.
What hits me about that is I've become a believer that there's a couple groups that I think are important as far as getting the future of cycling infrastructure to move forward. And one of those is kids, that kids have a safe place to ride. And then the other one I think is like older people who want to jump on a bike and go to the market. And so I think both of those, kids riding to school, for example, someone older that's not getting dressed up like I would dress up to go out for a workout, just getting on the bike and going to the market, those are probably under 10 miles. And so those need to be logged. And then the whole element of that needs to be comfortable.
100%. And for us, I see a future where we'll partner with AARP and share with them, hey, here's the riding population over 65 or even over 55. And this is how their experience of their environments are in these key markets. We need to lobby for policy changes to advocate for their improved experience, right? Where we want the world, the all ages, all ability world from 8 to 80. We want that world. We need that world for all the reasons. It's our ambition, it's our hope, it's our sincere mission to help fulfill the promise of biking as a climate mediator or mitigator and population health accelerant, right? That's our aim.
We're talking about so many interesting things here. There's just so many rabbit holes I could go down. But one of those things that I want you to talk a little bit more, you talk about geofencing. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if, and maybe this is difficult to answer, is there a huge difference in different areas as far as biking culture is concerned?
Absolutely. There's not a market that I'm responsible for partnerships and sales in North America. And of the regional deals, of the small city deals, of the state deals, every one of these I can tell you is very different from state to state and from community to community. There are similarities in more progressive states for sure. Where you've got a more progressive state, you've got a less cynical rather, program manager or planner who sees the way to actually cutting in and making some inroads for safer infrastructure. From a biking culture perspective, you have communities that, will go into, when we started in Atlanta years ago, you could not say that Atlanta was a biking city. Now, a lot of things happened in Atlanta, including the Beltline. And there was a lot of stuff that happened. But Love to Ride has been in that market, encouraging employers and encouraging riders to ride. Part of our kind of secret sauce is our employer engagement work that we do.
That's wonderful. You mentioned gamification, and one of the things that I got, really drawn into was the bike month challenge. And I think that's an example of something you mentioned that it's maybe one of the first things that you did for bike month. I don't know if that's the right statement, but it's like one of those, it sounds like one of those features that has really been there for a while, this bike month challenge. So can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So if you think about Love to Ride, I mentioned this before, we operate as a complete biking transportation platform. And as such, we have this virtuous circle. So the first part of the work that we do is engagement. And we engage people. We set up this Love to Ride San Jose website It is consumer facing, so it has all the activity of everybody riding and posting pictures and telling stories about their bike ride. It has aggregate stats for total miles traveled, total transportation trips, total carbon mitigate or total GHG mitigation by those transportation purposes, bike rides. And then in addition to that, every individual within that community has a profile, including businesses. So when Love to Ride goes into a community, we bring this whole website, and then we bring in challenges, campaigns, community-wide events. The community-wide event is important for one reason, and I'll say it like this: it's a line my sister gave me a long time ago, but it's really true. The culture is defined by what it refuses to tolerate and what it chooses to celebrate. And so engaging community challenges are not fluffy. They are serious work. If we want to change the culture, we have to celebrate in the direction of the culture we want to, where we want to be as a culture going forward. So these biking campaigns are designed as month-long programs. We do 2 big campaigns per year, one in May, which is Bike Month, and then one in either September, or if you're in California, Biketober, because everybody in California likes Biketober. And they're both what we call workplace challenges, which means that there are leaderboards for businesses to become engaged. And this is really important because what happens is part of the gamification the workplace is part of the gamification feature, because it is very easy. One, leaderboards really do get other businesses competing against other businesses. They saw that Acme Bricks registered, so Savannah Cement is going to register and ride, right? The other thing that happens is once that happens, then you're always going to have at least one cycling fiend within an organization. We call them they evangelize for us inside. But then they also see the gamification piece of that, which is these encourager points. So during Bike Month, employers and individuals basically ride as frequently as they can. Days matter, number of rides, number of trips. Mileage also does matter in total points. And then organizations for the total number, or it depends. Sometimes we do it by a percentage of employees that register and ride. So that means that people within the organization are like, we need to get Joe from marketing, get his butt on a bike and ride because we're behind 10 points, against this other company or whatever it is. So it really stimulates inter-office kind of cajoling. And so what happens as a result of having businesses involved in things like Bike Month is that you get more participation. You not only get more participation, across the board, you get more community engagement, right? You've got more businesses, there's more eyeballs on it, there's more Bike Month celebrations, et cetera. So it helps amplify, this cycling event, which is Bike Month. And then Cycle September and Biketober are also workplace challenges, but they are a little bit different in that they are geared more toward carbon mitigation and ideas around sustainability.
You talk about celebrating and what you celebrate. I think it's really cool that in California there is for Bike Month, and this is with the Bay Area Bike Everywhere Days, there's this celebration of bike champions. And I think that that's an example. Each county has their bike champion. I think that's an example of like celebrating the people that are leading to the future.
That's exactly right. And we are talking about culture. This is not, this isn't, some government edict. People have to change, and you have to create and foster an environment for that to happen. It has to be possible in their minds, right? And the only way we get to normalization is through kind of this cultural ruse on the front end, right? We're just, doing this thing. But if you start believing it, you're really doing the thing. And then before you know it, you've become a biking community. And it's all of these things, it's this social feedback, that businesses get into when they start really, getting in there and participating. It's, creating bonds across communities through teams and things like that. Yeah, it's super powerful. The challenges are very powerful. And of course, then once people are participating, they're generating a lot of data for us, right? They're generating a lot of data. Caveat with the data, we do not sell data to third parties, nor do we ingest third party data. So we don't use any big data. Our data is high provenance and it's completely anonymized. So we never share anybody's public data. But the data that we do collect while people are participating in these challenges are so helpful to making biking safer, more accessible, more connected in these communities. So when I say we're a virtuous circle, it's like we've got this engagement, we've got this training and education, we've got incentives, and then we've got data collection to help support safer infrastructure. So it's just this beautiful kind of virtuous circle that these programs enable.
Part of that, the value of that data is having someone that's in a position to recommend changes, to value that data, and then have them be able to package that and take it to, the legislative bodies, the decision makers at that level to make change. Do you feel like we have a lot to learn about what moves city, county, state, whatever leadership to make changes in infrastructure? Or do you think we kind of know what are the motivators at that political level?
It's a nuanced answer, but so again, every community, every state has a different kind of political environment that they're working within. And add to that, like funding, right? And add to funding a very large laundry list of things for departments of public works departments or departments of transportation to work on, or even public health departments, which I'm working frequently with now these days. So the data that we collect provides real one-to-one community feedback to politicians, creators of policy, departments of transportation planners and program managers, provides them with the information directly from the community about how they feel about biking in their community. That provides support, both political support and organizational support, leadership support, to make decisions to support safer biking infrastructure, to prioritize that infrastructure, to ask for more money for that infrastructure, to address specific populations who are maybe, really not being heard based on, the ability to filter comfort ratings, for example, by population. It allows you to isolate population, make sure you're doing the most on mobility justice. And so all of that can support the politics, the policy writing, the planning, and the result. That's why it's so important. And that's why it's so thrilling that we're collecting so much more on urban riding, which is where the money needs to be spent. We've got to improve our urban infrastructures if we are going to get more people riding bikes from a mode shift perspective. That's where the money needs to go.
I feel really fortunate. I live in a state. Our governor right now, he's leaving, but our governor is a cyclist, and he has spoken at Cascade Bicycle Club, and he was recognized by the Rails to Trails Conservancy. He's an advocate for bicycling, and we just recently had the Cascade Bicycle Club had their fundraiser, and a county council member spoke who was a cyclist and a commuter. And so having that leadership seems to be really important in actually keeping the pressure on, I guess, kind of keeping some energy behind moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I can't speak enough to the value of having people of leadership in that, in promoting biking and promoting safer infrastructure and modes for all. It is so important that you have that.
You have a quote learn section on your website, and can you share the impact that you hope to make with the content there, the learning content, the educational content?
Right. Well, some interesting news on all of our bike safety education. One is later this year, we will be push notifying. If you say, hey, I want bike safety education, we're going to start pushing bike safety quizzes out to our riders on the platform. Those will be incentivized. So if you complete your bike safety course, you go into a prize drawing, right? And so every week we'll have some kind of prize. It's nationals, but still it's incentivized, right? So a lot of that content will be reworked into these bike safety quizzes that are about 8 questions long. They're very quick. Some of that content we will also kind of regurgitate into videos. So those videos can also be selected while you're on the app to just review. And then in addition to that, one of the things that we've started toying with in a program in Florida was doing email pushes of bike safety education. And then on the back end, what we have is we actually can report on who's taken bike safety courses, what courses they've taken, who they are from a demographic perspective, where they're located from a zip code perspective. So we can start tuning, offerings, or from a bike program perspective, if you're an advocacy organization, you can start understanding, oh, in 78723, they're doing a lot of helmet safety courses, and the demographic here is X and the age is Y. So maybe we want to do some pop-ups there, or a bike rodeo, or whatever it might be. So we hope to do a lot more with that content.
There's this growing attention towards Vision Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if Love to Ride, there's a contribution that you feel you could make to achieving Vision Zero for cyclists.
100%. The app, as it's currently released right now with the comfort rating feature, of course, what we want to do is provide the comfort rating maps to planners so that they can see where the hot spots are, identify these are really problem areas. They're problem areas across all demographics. There are problem areas across all ages. That's a problem. So to prioritize a hotspot investment is one of the ways in which we can apply value. And then the next layer of that, of course, is providing not only the comfort rating, but the why behind the comfort rating. There's no shoulder, cars are moving too fast, whatever it might be. And then what's coming on Love to Ride from a product development standpoint is that we are working right now on some I guess it's technology, to help identify near misses by changes in acceleration, and then also using a pin drop kind of tool that will allow people to identify if they have the wherewithal to identify where they nearly were hit. So we're hoping those contributions, along with the contributions from other developers that are out there working on these problems, will help. One thing we can't do anything about is distracted drivers or reckless drivers. There's an epidemic in this country of reckless drivers going on. I don't know how we solve that problem, but it's a national epidemic at this point.
Yeah, it seems like barriers are really, in some ways, the most important thing, just keeping traffic away from pedestrians and cyclists. What about e-bikes? Do you think about e-bikes? Is there a different need when it comes to e-bikes and the expansion of the number of people? I see a lot of older people, using e-bikes. I plan on someday using pedal assist myself to stay up with my daughter and my son-in-law. And, so what do you guys think of when it comes to e-bikes?
Safety. And safety among the younger demographic, Gen Z and whatever comes after those people.
Okay.
We've got a big safety concern. They're reckless by nature. Young people are reckless by nature. Developmentally, they're all about risk taking. This is the explorer kind of option in the brain. Got to test the limits. So it is just it's ripe for trouble. So when we look at it, and the way we're looking at it is, one, we want to provide some kind of diagnostics on the system. How many people are using them? What does it look like? And then also doing some kind of, down the road when we've got this near miss, we're able to collect near miss data, establish some kind of corollary, understand, a kid traveling at 24 miles an hour so that we can provide some data for additional analysis to help on the safety side. The other thing that we're doing is actually developing bike safety modules that will be targeted to everyone, but we'll have one in particular. We'll have a series in particular targeted to young people, middle school and high school students, because that appears to be where the big problem area is. Older people don't seem to go crazy. They seem to appreciate the assist and kind of be done with it. But bike safety nonetheless, I mean, basically at 30 miles an hour, you need to understand, or 26 miles an hour, you need to understand what the implications are to your brain. It's very important to get ahead of, get out there quickly and effectively with safety education. And like all things like this, I mean, there are going to be carrots and sticks that are going to have to be used, developed at the policy level and then implemented at the city level. But, for our part, monitoring, providing whatever diagnostics we can, and then programmatically bike safety education, just trying to address it there.
Seems like comfort level is critical to getting people out on the road on a bike and having people consider the bike an alternative to a car. What are some of the biggest challenges that you guys see as far, in addition to comfort level, as far as getting people out on a bike?
On the list of complaints outside of safety, for women, it's what do I do about my kids? That's a big one. So emergency ride home programs. We are a TDM partner, a transportation demand management partner. We see ourselves as part of the total transportation demand management strategy. And so we really advocate for emergency ride home credits and those kinds of things for employers to give to employees to, increase the number of people that participate in biking to work and bike commuting by offering them a solution for sick kid or, unplanned emergencies of that nature. I think the other stuff that we see sometimes, in the South, it's too sweaty, right? Like it's 110 degrees, it's too hot, I'm too sweaty. So lack of showers and facilities is a big issue. And then I think finally, on the East Coast, we see this more, no safe place to park my bike. We see that a lot on the East Coast. I don't really hear so much of that. And that, dense urban environments that are gritty, I'm sure there is that. We see all of these in varying levels across the country. Sometimes, out your way, it's too hilly. University of Washington folks, too hilly, so you can see that too. And of course we get it, but that's where your pedal assist comes in, man. That's use the right bike, use the right tool for the right job, right?
That's right. For me, it's like a good hill is a nice challenge too. So, but I don't necessarily want to be challenged every time. So it's interesting. There's this element of being sweaty. And I think that that's such an interesting thing because I know, personally, I'm living this, I need to be more active. And so, part of me being active is that I get sweaty. And, kind of that's to me one of those cultural shifts, psychological just mindsets that it's like I can live with someone seeing me sweaty. I can live with armpit, stains, whatever, or, wet armpits or whatever, and because that means that I'm burning calories, and for someone to look at, someone else and going, oh, cool, they're burning calories. I mean, if you're on a basketball court, you're totally fine with someone
Right.
being sweaty, but it's like, let's be more comfortable. Maybe I need to just start that campaign. Let's be comfortable with sweat. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally do. I'm a lifelong athlete. So it's, my children have grown up with me smelling. They, I smell different, once every day when I take a shower. After that, it's all bets are off. Right. So I do think there's a little cultural thing. I think there is Yeah, I mean, like my sister, you would never in a million years, she would not go to work. She would not do it. She just would not do it. Yeah, it wouldn't happen. So part of it is getting comfortable with your humanity. And part of it is also like, my sister, she wants to ride a bike and all of that. And that's great. Is she going to commute to work ever? No, not in a heartbeat. She will not. Could I get her to ride a bike with me to coffee? Yes, absolutely. I could. Absolutely. Could I get her to ride the bike to go to a movie? Yeah, I could do that. But yeah, you're not going to be able to get everyone to do it all the time. But if we could get everyone to do it some of the time, that would be huge.
That's well said for sure. Is there a business justification? Is there a business advantage to getting the public out on bikes, including employees?
There are numerous. First of all, corporate responsibility is a real thing. Whether or not corporations are living up to that, it could be debated, but certainly it is a real thing. The other thing is that, scope emissions reporting is coming in some form or another. And businesses are going to have to start documenting the ways in which they are trying to reduce emissions. And this is a easy, Love to Ride is a turnkey platform. We go into businesses all the time, like Ford, for example, and set up a platform designed to encourage more people to bike for transportation, whether they're biking to work or biking to other things. So those changes are coming. The other thing that's coming as well is that congestion is not going away. We're on our way to what I'm not on my way there. I'm on my way out of the mega city, right? Like the mega cities are coming for all the reasons, right? Climate not being the least of them. And so especially in the South, we will probably have more people biking than we'll have light rail because of the political dynamics down here. But we're going to have other modes. There's just no question. Austin in particular is going, gangbusters right now because the State Department of Transportation in its wisdom has decided to bury 8 miles of highway I-30 or I-35, Interstate 35, which is the most congested 8 miles of traffic in the country. That whole initiative is going to take longer than 10 years. And if we don't have mode shift to active modes in Austin, I don't know how anyone's going to get anywhere. I don't know how it's going to happen. So yeah, there are business interests, there are financial interests, on the healthcare side alone. I mean, just reducing the burden of your healthcare by improved health in your employees. If you've got 4,000 employees, that's, you're reducing one heart attack per year. That's meaningful. That's meaningful to an insurance algorithm, right? Like it's meaningful. So, but not the least of which is, these disclosures are going to be mandatory in one form or another.
Well, it sounds like there's some natural pressures that are coming from population change. And I think that there's also, it seems to me like when I'm talking to younger people, there's more appreciation of alternative transportation modes for a lot of different reasons. It sounds like
Yeah.
maybe, would you say that you have a lot of hope for the cycling future for North America?
I do right now. I really do. I've seen I've seen so much change since I've been doing this work. I've seen so much change. I've seen the transition from, the one bike ped person to a mobility team. I've seen, active transportation roles popping up in counties I never thought I would see active transportation. I'm seeing more bike plans across the country that are meaningful and beyond just striping. And I'm also seeing a change in leadership at those regional and state levels. That coupled with massive amounts of money that have been released under the infrastructure bill, Safe Streets for All is a huge program. That's in grant phase right now. So if any of your listeners want to develop an application, I am here to help them do that. We can get that done. We are approved for that program and can have a demonstrated ability to deliver against it. There is so much good stuff to be excited about and hopeful for. lots of great young people in this movement to get more people on bikes. And yeah, it's the one thing I feel good about.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, is there a final message that you'd like to share with listeners who might be interested in getting involved in cycling advocacy, or starting their own cycling journey? Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts would point to you as an example. You just have to take one step, one action. That's it. Once you do, it's like you've dropped into a river of yes. Just hop on a bike, do yourself a favor, just cajole your dearest friend into riding a bike with you and go on that journey with another person. But just do it. Just absolutely do it, because it is profound how simple that change is. Once you've decided to do it and you do it, you can't imagine that you didn't do it sooner. Just do it, because you can. I like to say the body is like a Labrador. It's really just waiting at the door. It's just ready. It's ready. I don't care what condition it's in. It is ready for a tennis ball. It's just ready to go. Your body is waiting for you, and it loves you, and it would love to be on a bike.
So how about you? Do you have some cycling trips you'd like to do, or some goals, or some other physical challenges you're taking on soon?
I have never, I'm kind of a lone cyclist. I just have always been that way. There are so many beautiful rides across the country. I've been so fortunate to ride around DC and, in Seattle area. I mean, I've been so fortunate. I don't think I have a particular goal, although, Eastern Europe sounds pretty great for riding. But my goal is just to keep doing it, and that it's part of my life. That's kind of it. Just
Well,
keep
that's
going.
a good goal. Yeah, keeping going is a very good goal. Laura, thank you so much. This has been so delightful. I've learned so much, and I could keep this conversation going a long time, but you might have other things to do. But thanks for taking the time to join me.
Oh my God, Tom, thank you so much. This was such fun. Anytime.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
I am looking for your feedback on the Love to Ride app. You can find my email and the show Instagram link in the show notes. And the best way to share feedback on the Love to Ride app or anything else is in the Cycling Over 60 Strava Club. I'm hesitant to add another app to the mix, but I love what Laura shared about their vision. I really want to contribute to their data, so I will be trying to figure it out in the future. There are several features that I'm interested in with the app, and I think maybe there could be some features that could be fun for our Cycling Over 60 community. Just a reminder to keep an eye out for the post in the Cycling Over 60 Strava Club for the National Senior Health and Fitness Club Group Challenge. I like that Laura Cisneros shared that her goal is to just keep riding. I hope that is the goal for all of us. And remember, age is just a gear change.